Johannesburg is about to make recycling at home mandatory. From the 1st of July, Joburg residents will receive bags to place recyclable materials separate from other rubbish. These include paper items, plastic containers after they've been rinsed, metals such as tin cans and glass bottles and jars. Well, isn't this perhaps a lofty and expensive exercise when the city has been struggling this winter to keep the lights on? To discuss, we're joined by the Johannesburg member of the Mayoral Committee for Environmental Affairs, Nico de Jager. He's on the line. Thank you for being with us, Mr. de Jager. For people who haven't kept up with this initiative, let's just begin with the rationale. So is this all about landfill sites getting full?
Yes, it is absolutely. It's about a limited landfill space that's left in Johannesburg. We've got something like 6 years overall on average. That's what we've got left. So we need to start being more responsible with our waste and expand on what we've been doing since 2009 when we started with pilot projects with regard to separation at source. Separation at source is the responsibility of each and every one of us who uses who sends waste to the landfill site. It is the correct thing to do, and it's really to no extra cost at all of the residents. In fact, long term, it will rather be a cost-saving exercise than a costly exercise to the residents.
Are you sure no extra cost? I mean, if you have to deliver it to different areas, that's transport costs. Are we not heading towards the six dustbins? You need space, extra space?
No, that is not at all what's intended to do. We deliver a plastic bag to all the areas where we are rolling it out and making it mandatory. We delivering the plastic bag, and the plastic bag then gets put out on the same day then the bin would be collected. It's as simple as that. All the recyclables go into the same bag. We are not expecting residents to buy additional bins, etc., and we are not expecting any resident to take their waste to a dumping site, etc. Yeah. So it gets collected as usual, and then also, of course, we have the informal sector assisting us, but we need to expand what we're doing. We're currently only recycling about 10%, and we need to move towards a 30% of recyclables.
What about costs for the cities? So surely once things are separated at home, the city has to ensure that they stay separate. Does this involve much change to the current system?
Remember what we're doing? We make use of 25, and that is 25 of the cooperatives that formed by themselves to recycle, and that is people selling waste products to recycling companies who then would make or reuse waste products. The only cost to the city would be the plastic bag, but the cost saving is the impact that it will have in the long term on our landfill sites. Also, it will reduce the load that we would now normally take in on a day. We work on average on 500 households that can fit into one compact truck per day, and it's just going to increase that level or that acceptance into a compacted truck, and therefore reduce our mileage on the long run. So it's really the cost in terms of bags will be set off against the cost.
In June, you spoke about incorporating the waste pickers. There's been some concern about them, people making their livelihoods. As I understand it, plastic is quite valuable. So they're going through the dustbins looking for plastic. Some concern that hasn't been ironed out yet. Where's the city on that?
Not at all. We have set up a forum some time ago, since last year. In fact, we started having negotiations and discussions rather with the informal sector. But remember, right now, at the moment, we're only recycling about 10% of the waste. And the role of the informal sector is very much a part of what we are trying to achieve. We cannot do this without the informal sector. All that's now going to happen is that it will be a lot easier for the informal sector or the trolley pushers, whatever people want, however we want to call them, but let's call them reclaimers and the informal sector. whatever they are currently doing will just be made easier. But we also need to know who we are dealing with, and that's why we started this forum, to be able to ask the informal sector to register so that we can, when we have contracts or subcontractors that's going out, that we can make use of them. We are also, in terms of the informal sector, we are negotiating with the private companies to have mobile buyback centers going to the informal sector instead of the informal sector traveling miles and miles to the nearest buyback center. That's going to make it a lot easier for them, and it's also going to be a lot safer for all of us on the road.
Mm. All right, Mr. de Jager, this comes at a time where, looking at social media, some residents in Johannesburg feel like they're being duped by the city. So can we move to the power cuts that have been happening? Firstly, they started with the wage disruptions at Eskom, which seemed convenient but not necessarily linked. Then the city's criticised for using words like load rotation instead of just saying here's load shedding. There's no schedules. It all seems very obscure. What's going on?
Yeah, there is no difference between load shedding and the load rotation. Load shedding is a term used by Eskom for doing exactly what the city has to do from time to time. When we had the load rotation last week, until Saturday, it was as a result of capacity that we lost from the SABC substation out in near Calvin, the power station on the way to the airport. That is why we had to introduce that. We lost power. We've rebuilt. We're in the process of spending 1 billion rand on the rebuilding of the SABC substation that will secure power supply beyond the next 40 years. And we have to be cognizant of the fact that we are dealing with increased capacity. Eskom, although that's an Eskom intake point, Eskom could only secure that for us around 2022, 2023. So City Power had to come to the party and do something about that. Unfortunately, just before we could commission that new line, we had a power failure on both the Calvin side as well as the Eskom side, which then resulted on the complete and absolute power loss. And as we know, it happened a couple of times, but I'm very happy to report that has now been sorted out. The new line is up and running, and we will have the second transformer also up and running by the 25th of July. And then later on in the year, towards November, all three the transformers will be up and running, and that will increase the capacity to the extent that we now have moved from an 88 kV line to a 275 kV line. And that in itself, together with the additional transformers, will give you that assurance that we will have a steady supply of electricity to the northeastern suburbs of the city.
Mr. de Jager, on the SABC, so I understand this isn't some old substation. This is something new. Why was load transferred? Why are upgrades, changes happening in the middle of winter? And why are people complaining today in the south of Joburg that there are cuts?
No. SABC is a very old substation dating back to 1945. We had to upgrade the substation.
So it's a new transformer?
It's a substation that had to be upgraded. And that substation previously only had one transformer. We are now making sure that it's got 3 new transformers. So we can, in fact, increase capacity to the northeastern suburbs. Last night we had a power outage that was nothing to do with load rotation. We believe that could have been as a result of the temperature drop, which caused something might have gone wrong, but we had obviously something went wrong. It caused a trip at 3 of our substations. 2 of them could be restored quickly. The third one, a Delta substation, took a little bit longer, and as a result, we lost power to the south of Joburg and also Braamfontein and parts of the inner city.
All right, so you said everything was okay, but there's a few problems affecting the south. What's expected for the next few weeks for Johannesburg residents?
Well, look, that would be very nice if I could tell you that it's all going to be hunky-dory, but we believe that we are on the right track. And look, we have been very honest and open with the fact that we are dealing with a 19 billion rand backlog in infrastructure, specifically on city power. A 19 billion rand refurbishment backlog that needs to be eradicated. This 1 billion rand is going to go a long way as part of solving that problem. Over the next 3 years, we are refurbishing 13 of the substations that's in critical condition. And remember, in Johannesburg, and we've made media reports around this over the last couple of weeks, or rather the last couple of months as well. 27% of our substations are way beyond its useful life. So we have to do what we are doing in terms of investing in existing infrastructure to secure and therefore be able to cross-subsidize into other areas and expand the network.
All right, thank you for your time this evening. That was the Johannesburg member of the Mayoral Committee for Environmental Affairs, Nico de Jager. We take short